I just want to start this video off by asking a question. Were you confused at the end of We Need to Do Something? What did Amy's spell do? Why did Amy believe she was dead? Why was no one helping the family? Why did Melissa have the crazy red dream? What woke up inside of Amy? What was the point of the tongue? Why did Robert bite the snake's head off? Why did he whip Diane? What did the ending mean? What did the movie mean? Well, I'm here to help you out. After my first viewing of this movie, I was like, okay, is this supposed to be just thrilling or is there a message here? So I did some thinking about the movie and I also did some research into the book that this movie is based on. And I realized this movie is actually a really meaningful metaphorical story with a lot of clever layers that are really worth exploring. So to break it down, we're going to use 3 themes. 1, parental dysfunction, where we'll discuss the major meaning of the film, the father Robert's weakness, and the mother Diane's weakness. 2, excessive guilt, where we'll discuss Melissa's issues and challenges, Amy's belief that she's dead, Melissa and Amy's wrist slitting, Amy's internal awakening, the creatures outside the house, the dog tongue, Amy's spell casted on Joe, and Melissa's red dream sequence. And 3, toxicity and hopelessness, where we'll discuss the snake, Bobby's snake bite to the arm, Robert's snake bite to the face, Robert whipping Diane with the snake, Melissa stabbing Robert, the putting on the Ritz song, and the end with the final scare, and much more. And if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and a comment. It helps so much. And if you want to see more of these, please make sure to subscribe as well. Let's get started. Theme number 1, parental dysfunction. I think the best place to start with this analysis is with the end of a short LRM interview with Pat Healey, one of the leads who plays the father, Robert. At the end of the interview, he says, "In a way, the movie kind of exists on another plane that isn't strictly straight up realism, so to speak. It's taking license with an absurd situation, and maybe it's more metaphorical and allegorical in that way." And after reading some of the critical reviews about the book that this movie is based on, I totally agree with Pat Healey. This movie is one big allegory or one big metaphor, where everything supernatural reflects something very real about the family. And here's what I mean. The supernatural dire situation that this family is physically trapped in reflects the emotional toxic situation that this family has always been psychologically trapped in. The family is physically stagnant, unable to ensure their survival, while also the family is psychologically stagnant, unable to solve their problems between each other. So while the title of the movie and the book is We Need to Do Something, it represents that they need to do something to escape the house. And it also represents that they need to do something to improve the mental and emotional well-being of the family. So the weaknesses of each family member that prevent them from escaping the house are the same weaknesses that prevent them from escaping their problems as a family. And we see this idea displayed very consistently throughout the film. And I want to cover this by highlighting the major weakness that each of the 3 characters represent. And I'll talk about the little boy Bobby later on in this video. Robert, most obviously, represents selfishness. Robert, as a father, is often looked towards by the family to ensure a feeling of security and leadership. However, he demonstrates barely any form of leadership or security at all. He approaches the situation out of anger and frustration, followed by hopelessness. And when he does have ideas or things to say, it's usually at the cost of others, such as when he tries to force Bobby through the door, or when he yells relentlessly at Melissa, claiming it was all her fault for this supernatural disaster. And Robert's display of hopelessness and selfishness in the regular world is his unwillingness to conquer his alcoholism, as we see him chugging mouthwash and sucking alcohol wipes when he has no liquor. He really makes himself of very little use to the family in this particular situation, and as a father as a whole. Diane represents dishonesty. Diane's flaw of dishonesty is certainly well-intentioned. She uses white lies and secrets to keep her family from being hurt by the truth. However, a lot of the time, holding the truth away can lead to greater pain when the truth is finally revealed. For example, Diane's phone rings multiple times during the beginning of the movie, but she refuses to answer it. But Robert suspects and almost knows it's another man, and later on in the film, more hints are revealed that indicate that Diane is no longer in love with Robert. However, she stays with him and pretends she still loves him in order to keep her kids and family together. So while Diane constantly uses lines like it's going to be okay and someone will find us, she slowly loses more and more hope in her mind about her survival and her marriage. And this now brings me to the most significant character in the film, Melissa, in theme number 2, excessive guilt. Melissa, of course, embodying this theme, represents excessive guilt. Of course, as we see in the film, this entire supernatural tragedy began from a necromantic spell casted by her and her new friend, Amy. Melissa connects with Amy since they both feel incredibly troubled and outcasted. The most interesting thing, however, about Amy is when she tells Melissa, "I used to be a cutter because I used to be dead." And I was super confused about this line until she brought it up again when she said, "You ever hear of Cotard delusion? Walking corpse syndrome. It's like a mental illness, I guess. People became convinced that they're actually really dead." So I looked up this disease on Healthline, and the website says, Cotard delusion is a rare condition marked by the false belief that you or your body parts are dead, dying, or don't exist. And the main symptoms of this disease include anxiety, hallucinations, hypochondria, guilt, and preoccupation with hurting yourself. At least 4 out of these 5 symptoms are what Melissa has developed as a result of her family's toxicity and dysfunctionality. So Amy, as a character, is a personified reflection of Melissa's challenges, insecurities, and excessive guilt. You could also make a pretty interesting and strong argument that Amy isn't even real, and she was just a friend created by Melissa in her own head to escape from her unfortunate reality. This theory does seem pretty credible since we only see Amy in memories, dreams, and hallucinations. But let me know what you think about that theory, because I kind of personally think it's true. Anyway, throughout the film, we see that Melissa is reluctantly hinting to her family that this whole situation is her fault. And realistically, she kind of did cause it because she and Amy did cast the spell, but she can't put it all on herself that this apocalyptic situation has come out of a spell directed towards a school bully. This situation also represents the excessive guilt she feels for her family's issues and her inability to cope with an alcoholic father and a secretive mother. And the most graphic result of this is her picking her wrist wounds as a form of self-punishment. So later in the film, through a flashback, we hear that the spell has awoken something inside of Amy. Something evil or demonic, or as Amy says, something inhuman or diabolical. And to me, this represents the awakening of the spiritual demons and the psychological demons that will continue to haunt Melissa and her family. So essentially, the mysterious creatures lurking outside of the house are representative of the psychological demons that Melissa and her family aren't willing to face. And this is why no one from the outside tries to help. Family problems can only be solved from within the family. A great demonstration of this spiritual, psychological demon parallel is with the demon that our characters actually get to interact with. The dog on the other side of the door seems to be a demon spirit possessing the body of Spot, the family dog who died recently. After the demon refuses to let go of Melissa, Melissa ends up with the tongue of the dog in her hand. The same tongue that Melissa and Amy used to cast the spell on the bully and stalker, Joe. The return of the tongue, which is pulsating and twitching after having been removed from a buried corpse, represents the undying guilt that Melissa has for her family's problems. And fun fact, by the way, using cow tongues is also actually a voodoo ritual used to silence those who spread harmful words about others. There's actually an old article in the LA Times about some restaurant employees writing other employees' names down and pinning them to a cow tongue to stop the employees from spreading gossip about the administrator. It's a really short read, but it's extremely creepy. And Amy was basically doing the exact same thing in this film for Joe. Melissa also has this dream sequence where all of her insecurities and feelings of guilt are dramatically enhanced. Melissa is feeling her stomach tearing apart from the inside, but her parents ignore her pain. As she suffers, her mom simply asks why she never answers her calls, and her dad says, "We're all going to die because of you." And neither of her parents trust her in this dream, because in this dream, they believe she's a witch. They are relishing in the emotional and psychological pain that she believes she has caused. Theme number 3, toxicity and hopelessness. We also have this snake that appears and disappears and reappears throughout the film, and I believe this venomous snake symbolizes the toxicity of the family's issues that have always lingered around their house. And this toxicity, like the snake, is severely threatening to the well-being of all 4 of them. And this brings me to Bobby. Bobby is an innocent child and in no way has issues that contribute to the family's dysfunctionality. However, since he is a child, he will likely be the most severely affected by the family's issues, and therefore he is the first one bitten by this snake. He is poisoned by the toxicity of his family before he even knows there are problems in the first place. So in the specific scene where Bobby is bitten, it makes sense that it was the arguing between the parents that distracted them from protecting Bobby from the snake. And it's at the end of the film that the snake reappears again and bites the face of Robert. And Robert right after bites the head off of the snake. And to me, this showcases him relishing in the toxicity that he has entirely become a victim of, and uses this toxicity to lash out on his wife, symbolized by him whipping her with the headless snake. And this whole moment parallels a home life with an uncontrollable alcoholic father. Domestic abuse, of course, is a very common outcome of an angry alcoholic father who is frustrated with his own life and marriage. And this essentially leaves the family with no choice but to detach from the father entirely, which is totally justifiable, of course, if a parent is being abusive. Not necessarily by killing him, but by detaching from him. The killing here is symbolic. So I think what this ending is trying to point out is that this family has reached a point of no return. The well-being of their family as one unit is doomed. The youngest will be poisoned by his early and unfortunate childhood experiences. The father will lose control and fall into a downward spiral of hopelessness, toxicity, and frustration. And even if the mother and daughter stick together and do find a pathway out of this stagnant mental state, which we do see Diane do, their lives will still be extremely challenging as they try to live among the demons in their personal lives that still haunt them every day. And I think this idea of trying to face these demons and being tormented by them is symbolized when Diane crawls back into the house, traumatized by what she has come face to face with. The film's finale is accompanied with the song Putting on the Ritz, which is about pretending things are great to the outside world when in your personal life things are not going well, which parallels this ending perfectly. So in the end, we still see Diane repeating, "Everything's gonna be okay," over and over again. And Melissa being haunted once again by a dream reflecting her excessive guilt. A tragic and cynical ending that communicates to us that no matter who leaves who, or who turns on who else, the issues and psychological demons threatening this family's peace and well-being will always be right there. Alright, that's my analysis. Subscribe for weekly videos, and please send me recommendations. And I would love to know what you think about We Need to Do Something. What are your thoughts and theories around this crazy movie? I hope to see you again, and thank you so much for watching. See you later.